Heyo everybody, Haku here with my review for Fukigen the Mononokean Tsuzuki, episode 13, the finale, and as always with my finale reviews, I also talk about the show as a whole and give the show a score as a whole in my final review of the season. So, time to review the anime of the season. Now, for me, it seems a bit weird with all the other good shows out there, like The Promised Neverland, which was really good. This is probably the funnest show to me. I think I've enjoyed watching this and genuinely thought that this was the best thing that I've watched. And one thing that I've said a bunch of times in my reviews before, I always take bullet point notes whenever I'm watching or reading something. You can tell if an episode or a chapter of something is really, really good, because in that case I will have taken either no notes at all basically, or I will have just a absolute ton of notes. And for this, I have a literal half page of notes I took while watching, and then another half page that I took afterward. So, basically my notes for this are more than anything I've watched since maybe an episode of Zombieland Saga maybe would have had this many. But, so strap in. This is probably going to be a long video because there's so much to talk about. So much happened in the episode and so much was amazing. And in addition to that, the show as a whole, there's just so much to get into. It was that good. Either way, let's talk about the episode from the beginning first of all. So starting off, Hanai finds Bonta lying unconscious, and this scene is used to explain the phone call that we got at the end of the last scene that was cut off. Haruitsuki then, coming behind him, finds Bonta. Fuzzy comes out and tells him what happens. I love when Fluffy, Fuzzball, Fluffy, Puffball, whatever you want to call him, he gets to be kind of important. I know it's one of those things where if you have a character that doesn't really speak per se, sometimes they can get lost in the shuffle and he can just feel like a mascot. So I like when the show actually sort of takes some time and puts some effort in to making Fuzzy a legit character that gets to help out and be important. So Hanai within this sort of dream world sees the yellow Sakai. So we have the yellow Sakai within him, and we have this blue Sakai that Yaiko transformed into. So, I'm not sure which one's the real one. Maybe this is some sort of evil spirit that possessed the real Sakai. Maybe when Sakai turned evil, he turned all yellow and gold, which makes us wonder why Haruitsuki's like that. So, who knows? There's so much more going on. But during all this, Hanai's physical body is trying to free this yokai that's been sealed away, named Sasa, some sort of spider yokai. And this leads to a really cool scene with Hanai's body clashing influence with Haruitsuki, and it just makes me think I'd love to see influence worked more into the storyline, because it's a really, really good and cool concept to explore in the series. But we learned that Sasa hates humans and kind of has pretty good reasons for doing so. Haruitsuki thinks to himself that in order to stop this, they may need to kill Sasa. But from there, Sakai takes over Hanai's body. He goes all golden-eyed and everything, and turns evil and basically I'm gonna murder this yokai, just let me at it. And he's very blatantly evil, but I feel like for them to have worked with Aoi, there has to be more to it than that, so that gets me really excited for what could exist in the future of the series. We desperately need a season 3. But from there, Haruitsuki starts protecting Sasa, and not just to protect Sasa, but also because they're protecting Hanai from having to kill, because that's not who Hanai is as a person. They love yokai, and I love how that development has gotten to that point for the characters, for Haruitsuki standing up for Hanai, knowing who he is as a person, but also for Hanai making the journey, as we saw, from being this scaredy cat to being somebody who genuinely loves and cares about the well-being of the yokai. So all of that was amazing. From there, Hanai sees Aoi and Haruitsuki in the dream world, which was really, really cool. And then finally, as they're sort of clashing influence in reality and Sakai's sort of holding holding Haruitsuki down and getting the better of him. We have Hanai in the dream world stopping him, and the Sakai we see there looks like Aoi. So it's, again, very, very weird. We don't all know what is going on with these characters, and the mystery is what made this episode and what made this season of the show so good. So from there on, Hanai stops Sakai, and Haruitsuki, I love that Sakai, in his sort of giving up and giving Hanai his body back, he says that he's kind of disappointed and he's ashamed to see that Haruitsuki took after Aoi's ideology. So again, if Sakai, for whatever reason, has this evil ideology of killing yokai, and Aoi has this good ideology that Haruitsuki took after, why and how was Sakai working for him to begin with? So I love the mystery behind all that, and there has to be a lot more detail and nuance to it, you know? So from there on, when Hanai saved Fluffy, we get all the flashbacks to that, and Fluffy explaining, you know, you can trust these people to exercise you, and everything's cool to Sasa. That was really good. Again, bringing in the development and also having Fluffy be an important key member of the team as an employee of the Mononokean. And also, with the Bonta and Sasa stuff, I started to wonder there at the end. I was like, oh, is this somehow... I mean, it's not obviously following the plot of Charlotte's Web, but it being a pig and spider, is it somehow inspired by Charlotte's Web in some way? If just the designs. From there on, when we see Hanai finally wake up, they don't seem to remember anything that happened, and then we get a great scene with a great soundtrack where Haruitsuki explains to Hanai the information that he found. He seems to have found when Sakai died. He tells him what happened, and Mononokean chimes in, you know, it's shortly before Haruitsuki arrived. Aoi came back injured and said that they saw a cat die. In reference to Sakai, and there are pages missing of what exactly happened. And again, I love this, that it's the end of the season and yet we're just kicking off this new big mystery. It almost feels Scooby-Doo-ish in a way. But we learned that Hanai's like, well, that happened 3 years before I saw my dad, so that timeline can't be right. And Haruitsuki gives him the big reveal that the person you met wasn't actually your father, you met Aoi. And Aoi is such an interesting character, I need to know more about them. But Aoi apparently had the ability to show their form to humans, to any human. So from there, we learned that Sakai was evil, at least from what it says, and hated yokai, but they don't know why in that case they did what they did or why they were working with Aoi. So again, there's so much still to learn. And then we end off with just the funny slice of life stuff taking us into the next season, where we just have Yaiko arguing with Hanai and Zenko's father having a bunch of requests to go after yokai now. And Haruitsuki decided to hide a bunch of things because he feels like that's the best way to do it, because if he hides things both from his friends, if he keeps his mouth shut, both from them to make sure that they keep their mouths shut, and from the sort of higher-ups of the underworld, then that's really the only way to protect Hanai, because if not, if people find out that Sakai is still within him somehow, then that's going to be bad news, because he's kind of a murderer. So yeah, I got happy feels. It was so good. The happy feels were incredible. So yeah, I thought it was amazing. I thought it was a really emotional episode, especially that last scene or last couple scenes. I love the exploration of influence as a concept in the episode, where honestly I think that it would help the series and be interesting if we kept doing what we do with the normal storylines of them helping yokai, but add in a couple storylines here and there where the yokai tries to fight back and they have to use the influence to try to stop them from doing harm to innocent people or innocent yokai or something, and send them back to the underworld. Add a little bit of physicality to things. I think it could take the series to even greater heights. By just adding that, but keeping what already makes the series unique and special in what it is. Also, I am way, way more interested to learn about what's happening to Sakai and why they seem evil, but might not be. And also Aoi and Haruitsuki. I need to know so much more about who Aoi is, their tutelage of Haruitsuki, and what happened to them in the end. I thought Fluffy's role in the episode was really good. I always liked them getting to be an actual legitimate character. And Haruitsuki, I think Hanai has had great, amazing development, but Haruitsuki, I don't know, I guess he's the one I pay more attention to. I think he's had such good development from the beginning of the series to where he reached in this episode. So I would honestly give it 10 mysteries out of 10. I thought it was amazing. It left us with so many questions for a season 3 to come in, and I just need so much more of this series. I need more. So then, before I took my notes on the show as itself, one thing I always do is I always take the scores I give every episode and average them together and see what we ended up with. And we ended up with an 8.9, so this is like, again, when I started off the show, I said the first season was good, it was chill, maybe a 7 out of 10. It had some really good storylines, like the Scarecrow storyline. I remember liking the one with the seal that lost its vision or needed Hanai to give it vision temporarily or whatever. What was it? Yeah, the Scarecrow story I remember being just the absolute best. But there were other good ones too that I'm just maybe forgetting right now at the second. So yeah, from there on, yeah, I thought it was like a 7 out of 10, but this show, it's at least a 9 out of 10. It was so good. Like I said, best show this season. I absolutely loved it. And not only was the season incredible, I've never really experienced a second season being such an improvement over the first season. And the first season wasn't bad, it was still good, but this took a series from good to being just freaking great, amazing. One thing I loved, that I love in any series, is when we have this great gradual character development where a little bit an episode or every other episode we'd get a bit of character growth, but it was balanced really well with just telling episode by episode stories, which was great. In particular, the Keshi story was amazing as an episodic one. The Kinako story was great. This last story with Sasa and Bonta, I liked them. One thing I would say is maybe an about the season. We didn't get much Zenko. We barely got any Zenko here. For them to be a somewhat important character. Also, I still don't care whatsoever about their school friends. I think their names are like Fushi and Saga or something like that. I don't even remember their names. But they've been around since the first season, but they are just so unimportant and I care so little about them. I'm like, can we please just see other characters? So yeah, when I saw them in like the ending or whatever, I'm like, why? Why can't we use that screen time for like Kora and Shizuku or the executive justice and legislator or whatever? But whatever. So yeah, I'm like, I don't really care about those. Or like, I love the ending of the first season where over the course of it we get new characters added in on the picnic blanket. We needed more of that, I think, for this one. But I love the opening and ending too, just throwing that in there. I love seeing more of Hanai stuff, and like I said, I don't care about their school friends at all, but just from his sister basically showing up once or twice, I like Hanai's sister. We barely see his mom, but I liked his mom. I want to know more about their family and what's gone on with them. The mystery with his family has all been great, especially with the Sakai stuff added in, and why he had gold and yellow dyes in hair, but was also blue. I have no clue. So from there, what else is in my notes? I didn't personally think we saw enough of the city and the underworld like we did last season, because I really loved that. Or like Kora and Shizuku. Kora and Shizuku were two of my favorite characters for season 1, but we really didn't see much of them at all this season. Also, I loved this season. In the first season, the Legislator, I was like, whatever as a character. This season, though, the Legislator was such a good character. I really enjoyed them. In addition to that, Justice's introduction was great, and I really liked Justice as a character. We haven't seen much of them, but I do like what we've seen. And I think Executive has a really awesome design, but also they're a good obstacle type character. They're not really a villain, but they're an obstacle to the good guys, and they kind of have reason for not totally trusting the good guys. So I think Executive's a good addition to the cast to just add a little bit of struggle in there without needing a full-fledged villain to do it. Then I think Fluffy was used very well this season. More than just a mascot, they felt like a part of the cast. They felt like part of the team for being an employee of the Mononokean. They had key roles in a lot of storylines, despite being a character that doesn't actually speak. So I thought that was great. We didn't have much Yahiko this season, but I thought what we did get was really good with the development and building up the mystery a bit surrounding him of why he can't go to the underworld. So again, that's one of those things where we have this little build up for all these characters, but we're not just doing it all at once and then being like, okay, we told this great story with this character, but we got nothing else for him. I like that we got a little bit of development for each of these characters, and there's so much room for so much more about them, to learn more about their past, to explore how they could change in the future. There's so much left that can be done. And that's one thing. I love the slow, gradual build with the reveals and the storylines. It didn't just all happen at once and then, oh, well, that story's over. All of the little stories have little bits here and there that are just continuing on, and we need a season 3 to continue them. Like I said, for the episode notes, I am so interested in Aoi and Haruitsuki, their relationship, what Aoi's like, and what happened to them. I am very much interested. And also I think Sakai is an interesting plot point. Both the yellow eye and hair version being trapped within Hanai, but also trying to learn who they are, why they are the way they are. I think Hanai's growth and development's been amazing. He's really had quite a journey throughout the season with learning new skills and abilities, both like in the supernatural sense, but also just in an interpersonal sense. So that's been great. Of course, Haruitsuki's probably my favorite character, possibly. I don't know, it might be between Haruitsuki and Mononokean, but Haruitsuki's had great development too, but Hanai, I think, for the season, they've had quite a journey. I think Mononokean as a character is actually incredible. I think much more than the first season. I've really loved the mystery behind who the Mononokean is or could be. There's so much potential there. I would love to explore Mononokean more in the story as like their own character. What's the Mononokean's past? They had to have had all these past masters even before Aoi. What are their memories like? What's their personality like? I love the Mononokean's sort of cute, bubbly personality, but what struggles are they going through? Do they feel sad being a room that has to answer to this master? What were previous masters like to them? I would love to explore Mononokean more as a character, as maybe somebody who wants to make friends or talk to people or whatever, but they're just a room. I think there's so much potential there. And I love that bit of potential that we've seen in this season. So, yeah, fast travel room, best girl. From there, another thing I'd like for season 3, whenever we get it, I'd like the episodic characters to make returns. I'd like to see what's going on with Kinako and Keshi and all these other characters, and some of the characters from last season, like the Scarecrow or the seal lady whose name I forget. Some of the characters that we didn't get to see again this season, I'd like to revisit them and see what's going on with them. I'd like to see more of them. And of course more Kora, Chizuku, Zenko, Yaiko, etc. And Legislator is really great too. But yeah, I'd like to see more of all these characters. More of the Justice would be really cool. Especially I like the Justice and Hanai. Their characters play off each other really well, so I'd like to see the two of them in more scenes and stories together. But, yeah, characters returning is something I'd like. One thing with this season, the OST was brilliant. There's so many good tracks. The track just this episode with Haruitsuki explaining things to Hanai was great. The first 2 or 3 episodes, the OST was kicking ass the first 2 or 3 episodes this season. And I just went back because I was like, maybe they used some of these tracks in the first season. So I listened to the first season's OST while working the other day, and I'm just like, it's okay. it's whatever. It's okay. There were some good songs. But it was nothing like some of the tracks I've heard in the background this season. So I really, really need to listen to the OST for this one whenever it's out. The animation is not the best. I mean, it doesn't try to be, so I'm not really going to knock it too much for that. I mean, it's not horrible, which is important. Because, again, if it's just okay, but it's not trying to be... I think the best way to describe it might be that I can give it a pass because it's not sort of a series that relies on animation. If something is an action series, it has to have good animation or else the action's going to look messy. But if something's like a comedy or a romance or something, the animation can just be okay and it's fine. But one thing that's good, the art style. I particularly like how the art style is very distinct and different between the mundane world and the underworld. I think that's great. And I think the style more than makes up for the animation just not being the best. I mean, it's just average, maybe. It's certainly not below average. I've seen much worse, even just this season. So yeah, animation's just whatever, but the style is really good. Anything else in my notes? The season was really, really good at playing up emotions, but not just being super emotional. There were tons of times where I was tense or I was feelsy, but I wasn't just absolutely broken, sad, devastated. So it was emotional, but not ridiculously overblown with the emotions or anything. Not just really, I don't want to call it edgy. I don't know the word for it. Melodramatic, I guess. So it was emotional without being melodramatic, and I think the comedy worked in the same way. It was good, it was funny, but it was a lighthearted, haha, okay, that's whatever. It wasn't crazy nonsense comedy, laugh your ass off type stuff. It was just good, controlled comedy, going with the good, controlled feels. Another thing, and I think it's my last bullet point that I like, is I like that there's no real overt romance. I think that adding in just strict, out in the open romance between Haruitsuki and Hanai, I don't know, I feel it'd be a distraction from the main plot. That's one thing, when a series isn't a romance series, I sometimes don't like there to be romance at all because it can distract from the main points we're hitting. And there's another reason too, but I'll get to that in a second. So yeah, I think it's good that we don't have any overt romance, so we can still hit these main points and not just have the romance sort of distracting or taking away from that. And the second point where I usually don't like romance in series like this maybe is because I kind of like when things are left a bit platonic or non-unromantic. I personally love the exploration of friendship more than romance a ton. I much prefer that. But another reason is because it leaves it up to the fandom, to the fans, to decide what they think of these characters in a potential romantic situation. So I kind of like that where canon, we don't really get into romance, but it's just left to the fans to decide what they think. I like that, again, not just with this series, but with many that aren't romance series. I think if something is a comedy or a mystery or a action, it doesn't need to have romance in it. And sometimes when there is romance, it just feels, again, it feels shoehorned in there, and it feels like things are, it feels shoehorned in there, and that things are kind of being distracted from the main plot. And I guess I was scared at one point that there might have been a big romantic plot line between Zenko and Hanai as well. So I'm glad that that didn't turn into a thing either. So there is that. But as a score, I struggled so much. I struggled whether to give it a 9 out of 10, because that's basically what the scores average out to, or a 9.5 because I absolutely freaking loved this season and thought it was incredible. And since I struggled so much, I'm going to just go 9.25, just split the difference. So 9.25... I don't know, fast travel waifus, that's totally not anything I would have in my notes. 9.25 improvements out of 10. I loved this season. I hope you did too. I'm planning to make a video trying to hopefully get some other people to watch it. I think I might title it Tsuzuki and Why You Should Watch Fukigen and Mononokean or something like that, because I want to talk about this some more. I want to try to get other people to watch it because I thought it was really, really good. I loved it. And I hope you loved this series of reviews and this season of the show too. So like if you did like the video, comment down there to tell me what you thought of this season, of this episode, what you thought of my thoughts on them. Subscribe for more. I guess Fukigen and Mononokean's over for now, but whenever there's a season 3, I will be reviewing it. While I'm saying sub though, sub for more anime reviews and much more on the channel, but I really still haven't decided what I'm reviewing weekly next season, so if you have suggestions of what to review weekly next season, just let me know. Follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to keep you updated there and stuff for the channel or talk to you there. And if you want a link to our Discord server to talk to me or more of us on Discord about this series or anything else, just ask and I can give you a link. That's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.